My name's Miss Chrissy. I'm from the Harris County Public Library System and Lone Star College Sci-Fair. Welcome to Family Fun Night. Tonight we are making some candy clay. For this you're going to need some corn syrup and some candy melts. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to melt the candy melts in the microwave on half power at 30-second intervals. So microwave it for 30 seconds, then stir, then microwave, then stir, and keep going. So take it out, give it a stir. So we're going to put it back in. What is this thing called? Oven mitt. Make sure to use an oven mitt or to pull out the bowl because it's going to become hot. And you don't want to burn yourself. So pull it out, give it a couple stirs. You can see that it's starting to melt a little bit. Stir it around a little bit, and this is going to take quite a few times, so be patient. Here we go. This was our 4th time, I believe. You don't want to go too fast because then you risk burning the candy, and once you burn it, there's no going back. There we go. Give it a quick stir, then we'll put it back in for another 30 seconds at half power. Look at that. Not quite, but you can tell that they are definitely starting to melt and stick. And if you look at the bottom, you can see how it's starting to get all creamy. So it should hopefully be only a few more times, but we're getting close. You can see that it's really starting to melt now. Should only take 1, maybe 2 more times until it's all melted. Make sure once it's at this point that you go ahead and stir it up really well though, because the heat will continue to melt the candy melts. Back in. Yep, perfect. So stir it up to make sure you get all the lumps out. Let me show you what that looks like. Nice and smooth, no lumps. So now we're going to add the second ingredient, which is corn syrup. And for this we're going to add 1/4 cup. And stir. You can tell it's getting more difficult to stir, which means that the candy is starting to stiffen up. The only thing left to do now, once it's all nice and stirred in there, is you can lay it out on a piece of wax paper for it to cool for a little bit, or what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a cookie sheet. So I'm going to lay this out on the cookie sheet, and we are going to let it cool. And you can let it cool for about an hour or so. After it's cool, you're going to knead it again 1 more time, and then the shiny won't be there so much. The shiny is the corn syrup. So just let it cool for about an hour at room temperature. Knead it again 1 more time, and then the shiny won't be there so much. The shiny is the corn syrup. So just let it cool for about an hour at room temperature, and then it'll be ready to turn into treats. And while we wait, I'm going to do the color green. So now we have green that's going to go in while we're waiting for this to cool, so that we will have pink and green for making roses. So, now, you don't have to use candy melts. Well, if you're making candy clay, you would be using candy melts. If you were wanting to make modeling chocolate, which is very similar, you would use chocolate chips. And instead of the microwave, it would be easier to use a double boiler to make sure things don't go wrong. Candy melts are great because the candy melts work best in a microwave. It's harder to burn something with candy melts than it is for chocolate chips. But if you're careful, you can do it with chocolate chips or butterscotch chips or peanut butter chips. But when you use the chocolate chips or butterscotch chips, you want to make sure that you're careful with how you heat it, and you would be using 1/3 to 2/3 of the corn syrup instead of a 1/4 cup. So you'll be using just a little bit more. So our green is ready to add the corn syrup. As you stir, it becomes tighter, more solid, more difficult to stir. So the more you stir, the more it becomes the candy clay. And when you're done, we're going to let this sit out also to cool, and after about an hour or so, we're going to come back and knead it to turn it into the candy clay. See you back in an hour. So it's been about an hour, so it's time for us to knead the clay and get it to where we can work with it. So it is right now just a hard slab, so you're just going to keep kneading it until it becomes soft and workable. It might help to work in smaller batches, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to knead it in my hands this time to start with. Definitely use smaller batches. So after just a few minutes of kneading smaller batches, you have yourself clay. So you can pinch it off, roll into balls, and form it into whatever you want. And I am going to turn this into a rose. So I'm going to do that by creating several small balls. And I'm going to do one large ball about the size of a large marble. And then I'm going to do 3 smaller balls, and then 5 that are slightly larger than that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and 1 to start with. You start with the ball, give it one quick roll to give it a point at one end. The point is going to be the top of the rose. So you take your other balls and you squish it together with your fingers, and then push it together with your other fingers this way. And that's going to be the start of your rose petal. So you just pinch around the edges. And do that for all of the balls. Your hands are going to make this warmer, so make sure not to handle it for too long. It'll stiffen up as it air dries. So round ball, pinch one way, pinch the other way, and then pinch all the way around. Okay, now you start with your center ball. Then you take one of the petals set it next to it, and gently press it together like this. All the excess you're just going to pinch off and set aside. You take your next petal, you're going to overlap it a little bit, push both sides down, and then pinch off the extra. Same thing, you're going to overlap both of them this time and pinch off the extra. If you wanted to stop here, you would have a rosebud, but we're going to keep going. Add to where it overlaps and pinch it closed. Add to where it overlaps and pinch. Add and pinch. You can make your flower larger by adding more petals, doing a third row around, or you can make it smaller by just having your 3. And when you're done, you have a candy clay rose. And all you have to do is pinch all the extra off at the bottom. Besides using your hands to create things, you can also use molds. So I'm just going to take a ball and push it down into the mold. And we are using a puzzle mold because this is a family fun and games night. And then you'll let it sit and harden. I'm going to also get the green clay going so that we can get some green puzzle pieces and get some flowers going for our rose. Just give it a few kneads. After you knead it, it's going to be very soft. So if you want to let it sit a little bit longer before you start making your creations, or you can make your creations and just let them sit a bit. But we're going to be making some leaves for our flower. So I'm going to take a little bit and roll a little snake. That's just going to be the stem. Then you take a ball of green, pinch it, and then pinch both sides and flatten it out into the shape of a leaf. If it's too long, you just pinch the edge off. Then I'm going to set that onto the paper plate I have. That I'm going to set my rose on. And then you have yourself a candy rose. I'm also going to use some of the green to add in puzzle pieces. And of course you can choose any color you want to. And if you wanted to just use white, the white vanilla candy clay, the white vanilla chips, you can use food coloring to color it afterwards. You can also take 2 bits of different colored clay and roll them together to twist and fold on itself, and twist and fold onto itself, and you will have created a marble look. And I'm going to use this in some of my puzzle pieces. Then all we have to do is wait for them to dry. Luckily it does dry hard. And then, oh man, this stuff is good.
Oh, you like it a lot?
I do.
Yeah.
Candy clay is good. And there we have it. Have fun making your candy clay creations. I look forward to seeing some of the things that you make. Bye. If you'd like to check out more videos from our children's staff at Sci-Fair, please check out our LibGuides. And hit the thumbs up button to like, and please share. And you want a piece of candy clay?
What would I do with a piece of candy clay?
You would eat it.
But it's clay.
Yes, made out of candy.
Okay.